Hello and welcome back to Suzerain. We actually have one more thing that I didn't see last episode, that I didn't know that we had to deal with. Swordish's Legal Women donation. We have enough wealth to do that. And it's going to be important, I think. I don't know, like, is there anything else we need to be holding out wealth for? I think potentially bribing generals, I guess, is a thing that we could have to hold out for. But, I don't know, it feels like we're starting to get to the point where everything is under our control. We still need to deal with, so Hawker is still the leader of the Old Guard. We still need him off the Supreme Court, which we haven't done yet. We've made a deal to do that, but I don't know how we're gonna do that, because I don't think we are, constitutionally allowed to do that. Also, someone did say that, it's so interesting. We actually managed to convince a bunch of Old Guard to be on our side. But anyways, someone actually did mention the reason the legislative looks like this is because it's a presidential system, which is actually completely correct. I don't really understand presidential systems as much because I am not from a country in which we have a president. We have a parliamentary system, which means that, like, the seats that would go to independents in a presidential system go towards smaller parties instead. Apparently, independents are not beholden to the electoral threshold, and that is why these guys are independents. While as in a parliamentary system, or without the electoral threshold, they would probably go to smaller parties. At least that is how I had it explained to me by, I think it was Tess in the comments, but I'm not quite sure. And also, someone did actually comment, I think it was on episode 15, where they criticized the game for there being a specific right way of doing things, and that is to go full capitalist, because if you go planned economy, your economy doesn't recover in chapter 3, but mine has, and I did go planned economy. So I think it's a bit more complicated than that. There are, like, individual choices you have to make. If you go, like, full Stalin or whatever and do, like, a bunch of disastrous economic policies, then of course it's going to tank, but though Stalin also had some, economic policies that I guess did have their intended effect. Mass industrialization did mean that they were able to confront the industrial might of Germany at the time, or not at the time, but further into the war as they managed to actually mobilize their entire industry for war. The industry as it was at the time. Because, the Soviet Union's, industrialization was basically the European industrialization compressed into, 20 years or whatever. Even though Russia was an industrial nation, in a sense, it was a modern nation. I think a lot of people misrepresent the way that Russia worked, or the way that Russia existed, in the 1900s, early 1900s, and late 1800s. Because even though by the way, I'm rambling, but I will finish this train of thought before I move on. The fact of the matter is that Russia was lagging behind in industry, but it was still an industrial nation. It was still a modern nation. Similar to Norway, which was also a modern nation with its industries in the 1800s, or late 1800s rather. We had electrified, street lighting and stuff, and the early 1900s, when we had factories and stuff. We were also an agrarian-focused society, like Russia. The difference is that Russia was trying to attain superpower status, or the Soviet Union rather, was trying to attain great power status. They were trying to basically have that heavy industry, and that mobilizable heavy industry that a lot of great powers had, and a lot of great powers that were also colonial powers, so that they could go toe to toe with them. So it's a bit different. I think people go too hard on the whole left wing, no, they were just industrializing. No, they were trying to they had ambitions, is the thing. Ambitions, and or they had security politics concerns about being able to be self-sufficient and sustain themselves in a war with a great power. Let's do the donation thing. So I can't donate a hefty sum because I would take away my last potential for a bribe, which I would like to keep in case it could save me. But I'll donate. Personal wealth decreased, and I'm guessing, yeah, Rain makes donation to Swordish League of Women. Marked the first time that President of Swordland acknowledged and personally supported the women's rights struggle. Nice. By the way, sorry, I'm just gonna turn my webcam around. Never like to see that one with its light on at me when I don't have my webcam on in OBS. I was using it for like to hang out with friends last night over the internet. Anton Rain donates to support women. Will policies follow? I mean, they are already. Start of the day at the palace. Lucian and I were on our way to my office. I was holding a mug of coffee in one hand and a folder of various documents in the other. As we turned a corner, Lucian spoke. The Ashraf anniversary is coming up soon, the most important day for the British people. Watani Ashraf is one of their symbols, as you know. It was the carpenter who was killed by Swordish soldier during the protest against the construction of the Sol Dam, yeah. Also known as the Izam incident. Your presence at the event would show your desire for a more unified Swordland. We'll reap the benefits if you decide to go, I'm sure. You're right. We rounded another corner to reach the last corridor leading to my office. Lucian suddenly stopped in front of one of the doors. The plaque that once read Vice President Petr Vektor had been removed. The door was halfway open and I could see a few workers moving boxes around the room. One of them saw us, bowed his head and changed the name tag on the door to Vice President Gloria Tori. I heard Gloria's voice from behind him. Be careful with that box. She noticed us and immediately made her way to us. Mr. President, Mr. Galad. How's it going? Are you settled in yet? Getting there, Mr. President. That reminds me. Mr. Galad, could you talk to the staff secretary for me to get the furniture sorted here? I have a few more boxes coming in. Lucian's upper lip curled. He and Gloria stared at each other down for a moment. I'm not your servant, Mrs. Tori. It was just a simple request, Mr. Galad. I don't know what's with you, but I don't like your attitude. That's the job of an office secretary, Mrs. Tori, not our chief strategist. I know, as I said, it was just a simple request. I do not understand why it's becoming such a huge deal. Very well, I will do it. I will see you later, Mr. President and Mrs. Vice President. She should know better. She knows better. There are... There are things you don't ask the person who you just snubbed for Vice President to do. Like, this seems like a power play. I'll present you with our options on the Ashraf matter later. He walked out, leaving me alone with Gloria. Well then, I must get back to the move. Thank you for visiting, Mr. President. I will stop by as soon as this is done. I want you to try to get along with Lucian. I'll do my best. Gloria nodded at me and we went into a room. I entered my office, and she went into her room. I entered my office and asked Sylvia for a second cup of coffee to wake me up. Another long day was waiting for me. Oh, who's the speaker now? Leaders of the Assembly. Wait. Oh, Albin Clevens, Speaker of the Assembly, of course. Which is good. Having a progressive as a Speaker of the Assembly is actually important. Well, yeah, because the Vice President can still do her job to rally the Conservatives. She served as Speaker of the Grand National Assembly for many years and brings a proven track record. Yeah, Gloria Tori is Vice President. They hate that, probably. Out of all the candidates, we are amazed that she was the final pick of the President reign. She certainly has experience, but the dynamic in between them leaves much to be desired as the two leading figures of our country. Regardless, we can say that with certainty that Mrs. Tori will be a much better Vice President than Petr Vektor. Okay, that's actually surprisingly positive. City Hall, mediation of a dispute in gendarmerie. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is annoying. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to give... I don't know. This might have huge ramifications. I arrived in the city of Vesod with my new Vice President Gloria after receiving an emergency meeting request from Josef and Lilia. So I might actually have to ask the council again in Discord. I'd seen the reports of a recent issue that rose between the Swedish police forces and the gendarmerie units in the city. That is, if this is Lilias's plan to, like, take over the gendarmerie. The report said that an operation against a drug trafficking gang in Vesot failed due to miscommunication. It was not hard to guess that this meeting was going to be about. Or what this meeting. We entered the city hall and made our way to the second floor. I could hear Josef and Lilias' voices echoing through the hall. I opened the doors to the meeting room and the two ministers did not even realize. This is unacceptable. How dare the police meddle in the affairs of the gendarmerie? It was your men who started this ridiculousness and meddled with an ongoing police investigation. The voices were getting louder and louder. Rural security is my jurisdiction and your men were way outside of Vesot. Ministers, please stop your bickering in front of Mr. President. We will get nowhere if you continue with this behavior. Mr. President, Miss Vice President, apologies, but Miss Graf here failed to understand her place. I thought she was a Mrs. No, Mr. Lancia, you are the one who does not understand his place. If you continue to do so, you'll pay for it one day. Oh no, fuck this. Slam the table. I slammed the table, which shocked the ministers. They fell silent. Josef, let's hear your side of the story. The Lieutenant General of the Gendarmerie was tracking a drug trafficking ring in the countryside of Vesot. We immediately acted on it. Just when we were about to raid their hideout with live weapons, the police units arrived at the scene, and alerted the criminals. As a result, criminals got away. Isn't there a line of communication between you? There is, but the Minister of Defense decided to avoid notifying the police department about the planned raid. Same could be said about you, because the reports show that you knew about the gang and their stash in the countryside. How do we solve this issue so that it never happens again? I think that was the last drop. Internal security matters should be handed to the Ministry of Interior completely. We are called the Ministry of Interior for a reason. We can't let any more screw-ups like this happen again. I want the gendarmerie to be transferred to the Ministry of the Interior. What? Woman, are you out of your mind? He composed himself after a moment. I have to agree with Miss Graf. If we unify the command, our internal security will improve. There is no question about that. It makes sense, but right now I'm really worried about these guys. Look, Miss Tori, like... I know that there are endgames in this game that are bad for me. There are bad endings, and I know that there are situations where you might be doing things well in one arena, but in another arena, like, you know, like one of the most important arenas as a leader of a turbulent country, being the one where you maintain a good relationship with the military. Like, if I fail that one, they can take over, or they can at least boot me out and put someone else in charge, like Gloria Tori, for example. Which, you know, I realized that I may have made that path towards, you know, a coup much easier by putting a vice president in charge who might be more susceptible to the conservative or nationalistic, or maybe jingoistic rather, sort of ideals or views of the military leaders. Look, Miss Dory, I know that you are new to this and there is much that you were not briefed about, but I don't have to be briefed to see common sense, Mr. Lancia. I'd also like to remind you that it is Miss Vice President to you. Ridiculous, this is absolutely ridiculous. I won't hand over the gendarmerie to her. Out of the question. Do you have a better solution, Josef? Whenever operations overlap, we should engage at a lower rank with the local officers on both sides. We could work on... Well, I mean, that's not unreasonable, though. Like, this is the... I think this is the only reasonable thing Josef has said. This entire game. We could work on establishing that, but it still doesn't change the wrong system that exists now. No matter what, we need to eliminate this grey area and modernize our internal security. Now I see what's going on here. Lilia set us up to create this incident. That is going too far. What proof do you have? There is no way that the police has arrived at the right time of a month-long search on the exact day and minute of the gendarmerie raid. I mean, I actually do think that he might be right. Even though he is a conspiracy nut, like, it is very, very convenient that this happened. She had already, before this, asked me to, like, set this up. You may be right. It is very disappointing that you would even entertain the idea. This kind of accusation is unheard of. It's nonsense. If I were you, I wouldn't believe a word Mr. Lancia says, Mr. President. Heed my word, Mr. President. When dealing with these situations, you need to always look at who gets what out of it. won't stand idle by these utterly ridiculous and baseless accusations. I don't have time for this. What is your decision? Oh, god damn it. Well, I need to actually think about this. I'm gonna be right back in a moment. I'm back. I think that... So I've been weighing the options. The Gendarmerie should be under something like the Ministry of the Interior. But... And that would take away, I guess, one of the weapons of the military against me, like the internal security weapons. That being said, they still have the entire military. So it's not like it's going to stop them, I don't think. And all they need is me. They don't need to actually, like, I don't think there's going to be a civil war if there's a coup. I think they're just gonna say, hey, you're no longer the president. We have many guns. And it's sort of like, I can't really do much about that. I don't think they're going to be super unhappy with me, but there's a real chance. No, I don't know. No, I'm gonna say, yeah, there will be no change related to the gendarmerie operations. I also don't like Lilius, and it does seem like she may actually have orchestrated this thing specifically to get the Ministry of the Interior under her. And I don't know why she would do that, but I do know that she does actually, like, she has been trafficking conspiracy theories in the past, and she does have this, like, irrational hatred for certain groups and stuff like that. Which, of course, Joseph Lancia has as well. He hates the communists, right? On the account of them being communists. And Lilius is, you know, very, very conservative and also nationalistic, like he is, though. But very, very, like, hesitant when it comes to women's rights and all that. I don't think there will be any change related to the gendarmerie operations. You're making a mistake. Thank you for protecting the structure and authority of the Ministry of Defense. I didn't do it for you, Joseph. There are bigger issues at hand that need attention. Focus on them instead of each other. We will do our best, right, Mr. Lancia? That's right, Miss Graf. I left the room to attend my next scheduled meeting. Okay, that ending there actually went a little bit better than I thought it would. I thought they were going to get super mad at each other. Briefing on the current healthcare situation. Yes. I had a meeting scheduled with Pascal to receive the annual healthcare report. I arrived at my office with stacks of papers underneath both arms. So, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I do think it's kind of strange how you don't set the budget every year. We've sort of had the same budget this entire term. Like, you set the budget for the entire term. I don't know if they mentioned that in the beginning of the game or beginning of the term. But it is kind of interesting, because in Norway, obviously, you do a budget every year. Which is why, like, December is, like, sort of a campaigning season for every party, because every party transmits their alternate budget to the actual state budget. The current state budget, I think, is kind of dreadful. And, I mean, we have a situation actually right now in Norway. I want to talk about this in brief. We have a situation now in Norway where, like, one of the biggest papers, which let me see if I could figure out, it's called Verdensgang, VG. It's one of the biggest papers that we have. I don't actually know their history that well. But they're not a left-wing paper at all. And our government is right-wing, but they're not a left-wing paper at all. But they have been recently going like full Marcel Coronti rather, if he hated us, that is, and been posting editorials about how, you know, about the government's policies being disastrous, which is not a thing I've really seen all that much in Norway. Like, I don't remember seeing papers saying, hey, we as a publication are publicly against the these policies of the government. Like, I would expect, we have a paper called Aftenposten, the Evening Post, which is our conservative paper. It's not necessarily quite like The Economist. It's probably more like, I don't know, maybe Lachman Times, and this is VG. Or maybe this is VG, I don't know. But we also have a paper called Klassekampen, which translates to class struggle, which is our primary left-wing paper. One of the, like, it's also one of the largest papers in the country. And they are obviously going to be critical of the government at every turn, like the radical is of me in this game. Klassekampen is also critical of a left-wing government every time. It's kind of like the radical. But yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, they released the budget, and that's been scrutinized and criticized, and every party has released their budget, which would be a kind of an interesting thing to see. Like, we released our budget, and then we could see, like, every year, I guess, and then you could see, like, each party release their budget to see, like, what they would have done differently. Would have been a really cool feature. Then again, I don't know if that happens in a presidential system. Reviewing it shouldn't take more than a day. Measure the pile again, or maybe 2. That sounds just great. They contain very important information about the status of our healthcare. Salary, spendings, hospital reports, whatever you like. We can go through this together. Please no. Okay, let's begin. But I don't want to bore you, so I'll quickly summarize. Okay, thank you. I breathed a sigh of relief as he put on his reading glasses to look at the document he was holding. So we have concluded our report for the day. Or for the year. Thanks to the allocated funds, we have improved the healthcare in the country overall. We have used the resources to begin a comprehensive health reform. We have more patients treated, less waiting times, and higher treatment quality than the years before. Good. Under my presidency, I want Swedish people to have the best health service they can get. There can't be a more valiant aim. The foundations we laid so far will influence the years to come. We are certainly on the right path to challenge even Lesbia or Valksan in the matter, but we are not there yet. However, give it a few more years and we might even surpass them. We need to get to the level of superpowers. It will take effort, however. If we can stay for another term, I'm sure we will. Moving on. The investments we poured into our rural health facilities has paid off greatly. The quality of care increased due to the upgraded equipment, and we were able to hire more staff for the healthcare. Inequality is our worst enemy, and we are one step closer to beating it. The disparity in services needs more effort to be completely solved, however. The additional funds for the rural areas are a great start. All these efforts have resulted in a clear increase of quality in health services provided to our citizens. Now that I have given you the short summary, there is a very important matter to discuss. Is it polio? Leaning over to grab his briefcase, he pulled over a tan-colored package. The package was stamped with big red letters that read "Confidential." Pascal opened the package and brought out a few documents. He handed them over to me. I took the documents from his hand. It was a report from the Ministry of Health. Each page had a stamp on it that read, "For President's eyes only." The report was titled "Polio Outbreak in Bergia." How bad is it? But now it seems to be under control. We have put a few villages under quarantine. The total number of infected are currently 1,467. The death toll is at 23 so far. That's sort of like the Norwegian experience with COVID, I guess. If we have more outbreaks, the results will be terrible. Thankfully, we have received the additional funding to our healthcare. It should curb the infection ratio, although I am afraid even that might not be enough. This is a very serious matter, Mr. President. Lives of Swedish citizens are at stake. Don't worry about it, it will stop, I know it. This is, we have seen, this is not the approach to responding to a pandemic. What can we do about it? We have done our research. There is a cure. A vaccination was recently invented in United Contana by a doctor, and the formula has been made available for free in the entire world. No matter what people think about United Contana, if the same thing happened in Arcadia, we would be paying a price for it. Thanks to the very good decision made by, well, you can see how vaccine pricing is going right now. In the real world. Thanks to the very good decision made by you to increase the funding of our healthcare, we have the capability to produce this vaccine locally, but I'm afraid simply having the vaccines won't help. We need to make sure they are administered. We need to implement a nationwide mandatory polio vaccination policy. With your order, I can immediately get to work to ensure we are doing whatever it takes. This might seem excessive, however. It is absolutely necessary. Whatever it takes to protect Sordland, do it. Now, if you will excuse me, I must get to work immediately. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. Luckily, 5G hasn't been invented yet, so people can't freak out about this. He left my office, leaving me alone with a lot of paperwork to go through. Epidemic prevented. Okay, that's good. Mandatory vaccination. Well, that seemed like the objectively correct decision. Oh boy. A new Supreme Council of Swordage Radio and Television has opened in Holsard. The council experts declared that in the upcoming months there would be 19 organizational audits with up to 84 organizations reviewed by the end of the next year. Hope Coronti isn't... like, I hope we don't lose our sort of control over Coronti. Though this could also sort of give us a weapon to wield against him, or not a weapon to wield against him, but a weapon that will wield itself against him, I guess. Fair Trade Commission established, very good. Less smoke bill. Oh, this is an environmental bill. The Ministry of Health can start new programs. Don't spend this +1 government budget, that would be nice. Man, free eye tests and dental care isn't even a thing in Norway. This is to sort of like try to surpass the other countries in medical stuff. Free eye tests are important, but that's not enough. You need free eyeglasses as well. We used to have that for children here, and then that was removed by the current government. I think state-of-the-art medical school or medical scholarship would be good. Let's do state-of-the-art medical school. Health reform. State-of-the-art medical school, there we go. We're becoming like Cuba. Health department to fund new medical school. Nice. The Assembly passed an amendment to the tax bill of 1944 in order to increase tax revenue and reduce the excessive amount of tobacco consumption in the general populace. Section 1 of the TB of 44, which had imposed a 10% tax on all tobacco packages, will be increased to 30% on all tobacco products sold in the country. Section 2 will protect local industries by giving them a full tax exemption if the products are destined for export to other countries. This is a good bill. It's going to do, like, loads for, yeah, there we go, for health. Like, short-term, increased budget. Oh my god, economy is top. Short-term, increased budget. Long-term, just so much more money and so much more healthcare, capacity, because not a lot of hospital beds and hospital visits are being taken up by people who have lung issues because of smoke or lung cancer and stuff like that. Time to smoke less. Tobacco was recently discovered as dangerous to personal health after researchers in the United Contana published an international paper. Man, I want to ally with United Contana. They're seeming cooler and cooler by the minute, even though their government kind of sucks. President Reina signed the bill into law, which triggered a dozen complaints from working-class citizens who smoke often. This is also a thing that happens every time. There is a debate if the administration acted on this to increase taxes or to reduce the public health concerns, or maybe both. Well, both, but mostly the public health concerns. Support Ashraf anniversary. Attend with armored convoy. Okay. Okay. Haha. So, here's the thing. If I attend, if I get assassinated, I feel like the armored convoy isn't going to stop that. If I attend with the armored convoy, it's going to send a message. The British movement is holding their largest rally yet to display their demands and strength. I will attend to support. I hope I did not make a terrible mistake, but I feel like I've been a friend to the Bloods. After making a stop in Dare to meet the governor of Berja, Felix Bronn, we finally arrived in the ancient walled city of Suzerain. More than 2 decades ago, the city contained or gained particular importance for the British people due to this. So also on the assassination thing, I want to say, I wouldn't have visited if I was going to do the armored convoy anyways, because it just sends a signal. Not visiting sends a signal, but I don't think it's a signal they're unfamiliar with. But like attending with the armored convoy creates a new story that can be spun, or a new narrative that can be spun. It was the anniversary of the Izam incident and the death of Watani Ashraf. The event took place in the aptly named Izam Square, just several blocks away from the site of the tragic Izam incident, which currently lay under Lake Sol, together with the ruins of the sunken city. That lake should probably be renamed. We drove in the presidential Cadilla as we entered the city's old paved streets between its rundown buildings. Our convoy could barely fit the narrow streets, disrupting local traffic and creating a noisy chaos in this normally tranquil city. The passers-by looked upon us with concern as we drove towards the square. I must say, this was a good decision, sir. This will help ease the tensions. Yes, but I'm still worried about our safety. It is certainly risky, but if we manage to win some hearts today, it will be worth it. We're almost there. I can hear the crowd. I heard the chants and shouting from the outside. Lucian leaned in closer to the window, listening to their voices. They seem to be chanting Yolak Bluderat. I believe that means Free Bludia and Bludish, or something like that. We approached the large crowd that assembled in the square. There were probably at least 10,000 people. Our vehicle came to a stop. My driver exited the vehicle and opened the door for me. We were greeted by Mansoon Lekke. He wore a coat over his suit, which was marked with red and turquoise stripes of the Bludish movement's flag. He moved forward to greet us. Welcome to Suzerain, Mr. President. Shake his hand. Mr. Galad, welcome. Shall we move in to the sanctuary then? Let's go. We started making our way to the Suzerain sanctuary, which stood at the end of the square. A much smaller replica of the Ark Sanctuary in Deir, this building emanated a mystical aura due to its age and its blackened walls. We entered the building through the ornamented large metal gates. As we walked, the noise of the crowd started to fade out. Everyone started to get quiet for the ceremony. Thousands of candles were burning inside the sanctuary, one for each person that died in Izam. The red candle at the center was for Watani Ashraf. Mansoon gestured towards the candles. Oh, am I meant to pick one up? Pick up the red candle. He also picked up a candle and started walking out. Many others followed suit, including us. The atmosphere outside had completely changed. The crowd was now completely silent. We slowly walked towards Ashraf's grave. On the way, hundreds of people joined us. When we arrived, he pointed at a huge standing torch above the grave. Light the torch together with Mansoon. We lit the torch together. I turned around and realized the sheer amount of people who were following us. They were all looking at me, waiting to hear what I would say. Oh boy. Free people of Bludia. We're here to mourn Watani Ashraf and many others who have lost their lives. I condemn the events that led to the deaths of these lives, or the end of these lives. I assure you, this administration will do its absolute best to mend these wounds, or... This is what they want is a bad one. I shouldn't speak to that. That is not my place. I assure you, this administration will do its best to mend the wounds. He's right. I dream of a swordland, a truly united swordland, a country where being a blood or a sword does not matter. I don't necessarily like most of these. because I'm like treading on very, very dangerous ground here. There are many of these things that are not for me to say, like they don't belong, or like it's not my place to say most of these things. I don't want to remove this black mark from our history. I want to put it front and center and remember it. This could be a testament for unity, I guess. Mistakes were made in the past. Innocent people have paid the price, but we cannot let the past divide us. That's false. The past will always divide us unless we, like, I don't know. We can let the past divide us, and in some cases we should. I think that one. Thank you. Only silence. Monsoon leaned in close to me. I must admit, Mr. President, that was a good speech. I hope the crowd thinks the same. He extended his hand to me for a handshake. Hug him. Instead of going for the handshake, I spread out my arms and hugged him. Suddenly, the whole crowd started clapping. Thank you for this, Mr. President. I don't think the people of Suzerain will ever forget this. You became the first and only president who were brave enough to come to Suzerain and pay respects for the Izan victims. I hope this will be a start of a new era. Thank you. Sir, it's time to go. We started making our way back to the convoy. Well done, sir. This will prove very useful in the upcoming elections. What's the rush? The whole trip runs on schedule, sir. The convoy needs to start driving now, or else we won't make it back in time. We entered our vehicles and started making our way back home from Suzerain. That went really well. Brotherhood of the People. President Rain surprised the country with his attendance at the Ashraf anniversary. He joined the vigil outside, alongside Monsoon Leke on the day Sultan remembers Watani Ashraf. He has delivered a heartfelt speech that resonated among the crowd. I hope that this doesn't just stay as words. Long live Brotherhood of the People. Alright. Law. Reconciliation process. Oh, nice. That's probably going to more or less eliminate the, I hope, at least. It probably won't, but eliminate the sort of terrorism threat, the internal security threat. At least in Berger. And in fact, like, I think that giving them some autonomy would be long overdue. That being said, I think that this marks the end of the episode, and thank you so much for watching. Next episode, we will do the briefing on the current political situation in the White Room. Thanks so much for watching, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.